Howdy! Welcome to Aspire Mountain Academy. I'm Professor Curtis, your instructor for this course in Introductory Statistics. In less than 10 minutes, this video demonstrates how to calculate measures of center using StatCrunch. Let's get started. Now, in the previous mini lectures, we've examined various measures of center and demonstrated how to calculate them old school style. Now it's time to join the 21st century and learn how to calculate those same values using StatCrunch. To provide some context for this effort, let's look at an example problem involving cell phone data speeds. Here we have a table listing 4 data speeds experienced by a cell phone customer. We're asked to find the mean and median for this data set. To do that, we're going to access the data set in our class group called Cell Phone Data Speeds and use StatCrunch to do our heavy lifting for us. Let's take a moment now to watch how this is done, and then you'll have a chance to practice this yourself. Okay, here we are in the Cell Phone Data Speeds file in StatCrunch, and we're going to use this file to learn how to calculate measures of center in StatCrunch. I got my data here in the data table, so all I need to do now is go up to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. I select the column where my data is located, and then notice we've got some statistics selected by default. I want specific ones to answer the question that I was asked in the lecture, so I'm going to select those. First one was the mean, and then I can select more individually as I hold down the control key on my keyboard while I left click with the mouse. And the next one was the mode. And there's no direct calculation for mid-range in StatCrunch, and so I'm going to select these last 3 here, range, min, and max, so that we can actually use those numbers to calculate our mid-range. I hit compute, and here's my results window with the numbers that I need, all except the mid-range. But it's a simple enough calculation. Now, I don't know why the people that coded StatCrunch did not include this functionality in their software. I mean, as I just got done saying, it's a simple enough calculation, but they didn't, so we have to pick up the slack. So here in my calculator, you remember from the previous mini lecture, we talked about mid-range. There are 3 different ways that we can calculate it. I like to just take half the range, so put the range in, take half of it, and then add that value. I'm going to put that in memory because I'll need it later. I'm going to add that to the minimum value, 2, and I get 15.65. This is my mid-range value. Now, the other way I could get it is by taking the maximum value and then subtracting from that half of the range, and I get the same number. Or I could just use mid-range the way it was originally defined in the lecture by averaging the min and max values. So 10.2 plus 21.1 divided by 2, and we get the same number. So whichever way you want to do it, go ahead and pick your poison, but whichever way it is, make sure you stick with it so that you can be consistent and you don't get confused with the different ways to calculate it. And it just makes it go that much easier and smoother. And that's basically how you get your measures of center in StatCrunch. Hope that helps you. Okay, so as we saw in the video, we can calculate the mean and the median values very easily in StatCrunch. Okay, so now it's your turn. Pause the video here, go get the cell phone data speeds file in our StatCrunch class group, and find the mean and median values of the data set. I'll wait right here until you get back. Okay, I hope you got something that looks like this. If not, go back and watch the video on how to do this, and then try again until you get it right. Okay, now suppose we had an extra value of 142 to our data set. What are the mean and median values now? Go back into StatCrunch, add the extra data point, and recalculate your mean and median values. Again, I'll wait right here for you until you get back.
Okay, I hope you got something that looks like this. If not, feel free to pause the video here, go back, get it right. Now, if you look at that extra value we added, it's clearly an outlier, not even in the same neighborhood as the other values in the data set. So let's say you ask around and discover that the data value is a transcription error. It really should be 14.2 instead of 142. Now, how does this correction change the mean and median values of the data set? And yes, you need to pause the video here, go back into StatCrunch, recalculate. I'll wait right here for you. Okay, here's what you should have, something that looks like this. Now, let's compare these results and see what we can learn about the mean and the median. Here is our original mean value. And here is the mean value after adding in the extra data point that is obviously an outlier. Notice the wild swing in the value from adding that one outlier. Okay, then we corrected the outlier, and our mean value goes back to the old neighborhood where it started. So we see that the mean considers every data point in the set, and as such is sensitive to the influence of outliers and other extreme values. Now, let's look at the median values. Here's the first one, here's the second one, and here's the third one. Notice that they're all in the same neighborhood. The addition of an outlier didn't change the value all that much. This is why we call the median a resistant measure of center, because extreme values in the data set don't influence its value all that much. The mean, on the other hand, is not a resistant measure of center because its value is sensitive to the presence of outliers. Let's now consider another example involving the height of elected U.S. presidents. What are the mean, median, mode, and mid-range for this data set? Go ahead, pause the video, open the data file from our StatCrunch group, and see if you can calculate these values on your own. Then come back and we'll retrace your steps to see if you're right. Okay, let's see the steps you needed to take to get the right answer. Okay, first, you get your data into StatCrunch. Inside StatCrunch, you're going to select Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. In the Options window, you're going to select the column with your data, and then you select the statistics you need to calculate. Then you click Compute. And here's the Results window with your selected statistics. You should have gotten something like this when you did this yourself. Now, as was pointed out in the video, StatCrunch doesn't directly calculate the mid-range, but it will calculate statistics you can use to calculate it yourself. So, we can take half the range and then add it to the minimum value, or we could subtract half the range from the max value. Okay, either way we get the same number. We could also average the min and max values and add them together and then divide by 2, and that would also give us 178. And that brings us to the end of this mini lecture. I hope you found it helpful. You can find more mini lectures for this and other courses at AspireMountainAcademy.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.